Okay, so here's how I see your position. The little wash ball represents your worldview or your philosophy, and it is buoyed up on a reality that is contained within a, as you say it, a well-formed, secure knowledge or understanding of how the world operates, how the universe is. And despite the occasional buffeting or knocks, this philosophy, this worldview is pretty secure. The problem with this is that science shows that our knowledge base is actually more like this. Now it seems to me that you don't agree with this. You think that that the gaps are minimal at most, and that any that are there will not affect your worldview or your philosophy overall. But I don't think this position can be substantiated in any way. Scientific endeavour shows that there are huge numbers of gaps, and the problem with being rigid about your philosophy and your worldview is that in the end your worldview isn't resting on reality. It's resting on a knowledge base, on an understanding that is really shut full of holes. Now both scientists and creationists, and especially those ID creationists, both recognise that there are gaps in their knowledge. The creationists and the Bible-inspired ideas, they believe that if you look closely, if you stare closely into those gaps, that some of the gaps will just not be filled. And if you look closely, you're going to find Big G sitting behind one of those gaps, sitting on his throne, stroking his beard, waving. The scientists, on the other hand, believe that if you study those gaps, that you study closely enough, that a thread of evidence will emerge, a sort of a string of evidence will emerge, and if you follow that string, if you pull upon that string, that eventually that gap will be sealed off. And that is based on a couple of assumptions. The first assumption is that the gaps will be filled by naturalistic explanations. Now, even though that's an assumption, it's not a completely unreasonable assumption given the wealth of evidence that we have about the naturalistic explanations for the world. But it is still an assumption. The second assumption is that the human intellect is such that it will be able to comprehend, it will have the sort of the strength, the mental fortitude to pull upon those strings to fill those gaps. Now that assumption is less sound, in my opinion. There's nothing to suggest that we have the mental capacity to understand the complexities of the universe. One other problem is this. When scientists do investigate these gaps, and they find this string of evidence and they pull upon this string. More often than not, a whole new depth of reality hoves into view. You know, take for example the quantum world, you know, and it has more gaps in it than the original model, than the original container of our knowledge. It seems to me that, one, you don't believe that there are any substantial gaps in our understanding, and that any gaps that there are won't, even if they're filled, they won't add anything to our understanding of the universe. I just don't see how you could substantiate that, how you could stand by such a belief. But maybe I've misinterpreted you. But secondly, you seem to be worried that talking about these gaps, such as they are, leaves room for the phantasmagoricals. I take it you're talking about the all theists, or maybe particularly creationists or ideas or something. But if you're talking about all theists, well, you're talking about people like me. That's allowing wriggle room, as you put it. But that isn't cause enough. That isn't reason enough to deny the gaps, to deny what is actually there, to deny our lack of understanding. And I don't think you can. I don't think it's right that you would berate the likes of To Be Serious, Azunak or Matt as being phantasmagoricals. There's nothing in any of the videos that I've seen of theirs that would lump them in with the likes of me. What I have seen in their videos is a certain degree of humility and a certain degree of awe about the universe. But there's nothing to say that they're talking about anything other than the naturalistic explanations of the universe. I don't think that they're dyed-in-the-wool faith heads or anything like that. I think that's a charge that doesn't stand up. You insist on talking about the universe as if it's a machine, and it just isn't so. It just isn't so. And this reductionist view is cannot be substantiated. It can't be upheld. I'll give you just a sort of an everyday example to show that it can't be upheld. It's a bit of a challenge. You can take this as a challenge if you like. If the reductionist viewpoint is valid, then it should be okay. It should be easy enough for you to derive the properties of water from the known properties of hydrogen. Look at the properties of hydrogen and tell me how you can extrapolate from them the properties of water. What you will find is that you will not be able to do it. You can ask as many physicists as you like, and they will not be able to do it. And this is the stuff that you've heard Matt talking about and To Be Serious talking about, emergent properties. The properties of water are emergent properties of the combination of hydrogen and oxygen. You cannot derive them by just studying each. You can't just derive them by studying the properties of them individually. So the reductionist line doesn't hold. The universe will be what it is. It will not be what we want it to be. No matter how much we want it to be, whatever way we want it to be.